Good evening.
Happy Friday. So this week we're going to talk about gardening again. We're going to give you guys a few more tips and also talk about like things to prepare your garden as we're coming into gardening season. Now in Iowa, we just got more snow. We're supposed to get more snow tomorrow. So it's a little hard to kind of wrap our minds around gardening and all of that kind of stuff. But if you're going to be starting seeds, now is the time for some of those seeds to be getting put in soil so that when it's warm enough, you have decent sized starts to put out into your garden. So I saw a meme the other day that was hilarious. It was this lady with a gardening hat on, and she had a rake and she was raking the snow, and she's like, I'm just gonna I'm just done with winter. I'm gonna start gardening.
Yeah, that was funny.
Yeah.
Yeah, so we're talking soil.
Yeah, so prepping the soil, what things can you put down now, or could you put down in the fall after you're done with your harvest to prep your soil for the coming gardening season? So we have got some really good favorites that we've had over the years. So
yes, so what do we put in the garden during winter time maybe? So right now we're doing, because we're growing out chickens downstairs. Does that go into it at all?
Yeah. So basically, we, from when we lived on the farm, there are different types of fertilizer that you can put on. Obviously, you can put on the commercial or chemical type fertilizer. That's not one of our favorites because remember, we're trying to do things, we're trying to do things in a more natural way.
Natural, organic.
Yes. And so looking at the type of fertilizer that you have available, maybe a neighbor down the road that's got horses and they're constantly cleaning out their barn. It's a real thing. It happens all the time. They're looking for people to get rid of manure too.
And some of them use wood chips too. So if you like having that biodegradable stuff that breaks down, some of them will do cedar chips in with their manure. And so you get a lot of that. And that will break down also. Also helps with water being soaking into the soil with the wood chips plus the fertilization properties of manure.
Yes, and so really knowing what kind of fertilizer you are getting or have access to, and then what type of fertilizer is. So when you're gardening, they talk about hot fertilizer and I don't know if it's like cool fertilizer or whatever, but basically that means hot fertilizer is something like chicken manure that hasn't been composted. And it will actually, they call it hot fertilizer because it will can kill your plants if you put it on in too close to the bottom of the plant or in too large of a condensation, basically. If it's just like too much of a good thing is too much of a good thing. You don't want your garden to die after you've done all this work to get it planted. So right now, obviously, we got nothing out in the garden. So it's a perfect time to put on basically whatever type of fertilizer you have access to. So we're doing rabbit, chicken manure right now. And that way it's on there. It's going to kind of start to compost and all that kind of stuff. And then when you till in the spring and till your soil under and turn your soil and all of that kind of stuff, it's just going to mix right in and be super incredible, be super beneficial for your garden when you're ready to plant it. Now, people out in Washington, I mean, what are their temps like right now?
Gosh, I don't know, but I think they're in the 50s now.
Yeah, so they are ahead of us in terms of the, how close they're ready to actually get things in the ground. I remember when we lived in Washington State on the
Western
west
Washington
side, so the mild side, I would have peas in the ground by the end of February or first part of March. Like that was my goal every year. Like get the peas in the ground. Because so that's the next thing we want to kind of transition to is early season plants.
Yeah. Now I have a question though. What about now rabbit turd? Because we've actually we've raised rabbits before, and we actually had somebody come with a 5-gallon bucket and buy rabbit turd from us.
Yeah.
And they would like put water in it or something like that. Maybe.
Yeah. So you can make like what's called a compost tea or a manure tea. And you could actually use that. Say you have houseplants, you know, you maybe not do so much with the gardening outside, but you have houseplants and you want them to do really well and thrive and have all the benefits, but you don't want to like sprinkle rabbit poop on your houseplants. You can actually put tea, or not put tea.
TEAT.
No.
Just in case you were curious.
No.
How it's spelled.
You can actually put water, like Dave said, in a 5-gallon bucket of manure, and then that, they call it compost tea, but
the nutrients soaks into the water.
Yeah, the nutrients will kind of like infuse into the water, if you will. And so when you drain that off and go put it on your houseplants, it will actually be super beneficial for your houseplants. Obviously, you can do that out in the garden as well. I mean, we just put the rabbit manure on there because we got the rabbit manure.
And we figured the rain will make tea.
Yes. The other, so before we go on to the next thing though, rabbit manure is a cool manure. So during the gardening season, when you have plants above ground, your plants are already growing, rabbit manure is incredible for gardening with. So gardeners love, love, love rabbit manure. So if you have rabbits, your friends, the people you want to talk to, are the gardening people. And vice versa. It's a great symbiotic relationship. Mm-hmm. Or you could just do both, have a garden and have rabbits, and then you don't have to have anybody else. You know, you don't have to have a middleman unless you have a lot more of one or the other. So, is that kind of get at what you... And
no,
the other,
I think that's a great idea.
The other thing, too, like when we had ducks on the farm, I remember one lady coming and she's like, wherever she would duck out her, she had like, or dump out her kiddie pool. She had like a kiddie pool for her ducks to swim in. Oh. She said wherever she dumped her pool or wherever she would put that water, the plants would like thrive. So apparently duck manure, you know, if you can get your hands on it, I don't know where you could get that, but.
There was one lady too that we heard, and she taught her ducks to follow her around, and this was in Western Washington, and ducks like slugs. So she would have them follow her around her flower beds, and they would sit there and eat up all the slugs. Not that ducks are super messy, so I mean, it's, if you want to get them, it's definitely a commitment for keeping things tidy. But that was another bonus for ducks. Anyhow, we can... Yes. If you're in Western Washington, slugs are an issue. I think Iowa, it must get too cold. Like slugs, I don't think I've ever seen like a slug out in Iowa. No, snails maybe, but... Snails, yes. Yes. So, now that we've moved on from fertilizers or different ways you can amend the soil, early season... crops. What can you plant early in the season? And so there are a whole bunch of, and you can research this, especially like we talked last week about like for your zone. Look at your zone. When can you plant what? What is a good early crop, early season crop for you to plant in your zone? So peas are incredible early season, especially if you live somewhere where it gets hot, like you have hot summers. Because peas don't like the heat. Peas do not like heat. Nope. Peas like cool, like shady, maybe some morning sun, because morning sun is like the gentle sun.
and then evening or afternoon, evening shade. And so if you have, like here, we have a garden on the north side of our house. And so
I would call it a flower bed.
flower bed.
Yeah.
Flower bed recently converted to a garden.
Yep, yep.
But that's a perfect garden for peas, lettuce. Lettuce is another really good early season crop that you can plant. Because lettuce, when you hit the heat of the summer, it will bolt, which means it will kind of like shoot up, put seeds out, because again, reproduction is part of the way God created plants to, continue growing. But it will bolt, and then when it bolts, it will also taste very bitter. So there will be lettuce that you are like, it's not appetizing to eat.
Like kale.
Kale's not bitter.
Oh, okay.
But I mean, some people don't like to eat kale.
Mm-hmm. Now, speaking of kale, is kale another one of those?
Yeah, kale you can plant early on. Kale is much more hardy.
Mm-hmm.
So when you get to the hotter part of the summer, kale can withstand a lot more of that. But kale, I have seen people, and actually when we lived in Western Washington, we overwintered kale.
Mm-hmm.
Because it's so mild there, it doesn't really get super cold, and so you can overwinter kale.
Mm-hmm.
So yes, so peas, lettuce, kale, radishes are usually an early season crop. Beets are something good that you can get in the ground right away.
And now radishes, if you don't like the spiciness, I think we said this on another video or another live, but you can totally, if you boil it or steam them. I don't know if steaming works, but we'll put all of our veggies in and kind of in the Instapot, which kind of does a steam type thing, and totally takes the bitterness out of the radishes. And I don't know if that works for all cooking radishes like across the board, but totally takes that bite out of them, and they almost are like potatoes or something like that. So radishes, if you haven't tried them before, I do suggest cooking them and then trying them again, and especially pick up some seeds and try it out.
Yeah.
Anyhow, early one.
Yeah, radishes. It takes away that. What are radishes? They're not. It's not
spicy. It's got a bite. Spicy. Yeah, but it's got like a bite to it, I guess.
Yeah, they're a little spicy, and obviously some varieties are going to be a little more zippy than other varieties. But yeah, boiling them, or I would think steaming might work. We haven't actually tried it though, but boiling them, they taste very similar to potatoes. Now, I'm not sure you would want to cook up a whole pot and mash them. I don't know.
Mashed radishes?
I don't know if that would be the same or not.
That'd be a fun trick to play during Thanksgiving.
Who signed up to bring the potatoes? We did. They're not potatoes, though.
Yeah. You could play dumb. I know it said mashed potatoes. I totally read mashed radishes. I just never heard of it. Figured I'd give it a whirl. Okay.
We bought the little tiny red spicy potatoes and mashed those instead. Okay. We think we're hilarious. Not everyone does. Okay. Yes. So early season crops. Peas. We went over those. So like we said, though, if you are curious about what you can get started in your area, research that. The other thing, if you are wanting to get into like garlic, and now we're in spring, and you're researching and you realize I should have planted my garlic in the fall, because that is when garlic is planted, is in the fall.
Which is really early.
It's either really early or very late.
Good point.
So it all depends on perspective, how you look at it. You're either super early or super late. I would think we would want to go with the really early version.
That does sound good.
Yes.
Early for next year.
It sounds very exciting to be super early. So you can do a spring planting of garlic as long as you realize by the time you're ready to harvest, they're not going to be as large bulbs or as full of bulbs or all of that kind of stuff. So Garlic can be planted in the spring. And there's a whole bunch of, I mean, I could just go down a whole long list, but there's a whole bunch of things that you can plant early.
Mm-hmm.
And
it'd be a good thing you could research too.
Yeah, research. So one thing that I like to do at our hardware store here in town or at the bank here in town, they give away free calendars. And I like to get one of those every year and use it specifically for my garden planting calendar. So then I have my seeds that I want to plant, and I research when does this one need to be either started indoors or direct sow. So then you have to, I came up with a little code, like direct sow is DS. So I put a DS, direct sow, and then I might put green beans right by it. And I'm going to do that, you know, after so also research the last frost, the last expected frost date for your area. So ours last year was April 21st. So I might want to plant green beans, you know, April 30th. Anyways, so I might want to plant the green beans, you know, April 30th. So on my calendar, I'm going to write DS, direct sow, and then I'm going to write green beans. And then I'm going to write direct sow zucchini. You know, all the things that I'm going to direct sow. The things that I'm going to start indoors, I would say like indoor start. So I would put IS. You know, and I'm going to say which actual thing I want to start indoors. Now, peas, I would not start indoors. You can, and you can buy them at the store. Someone put them in the little pot and started them ahead of time. I do not like to do that. What I like to do is I like to germinate them indoors before I plant them. So, how do we normally do our germinating?
Well, you normally do that.
I'm trying to get you involved.
It's tough to remember.
So we use a paper towel.
Okay. Oh, that's right. Put a paper towel, get it wet. You know, put the seeds in the middle of it, fold it over the top, kind of keep it damp.
Yes.
But not damp so much that it gets moldy.
No, just lightly.
And
damp.
then we would normally, I think, put it on top of the fridge because that way, kind of the heat from the back of the fridge would kind of come up and keep them warm-ish.
Yes.
Because you don't want them chilly. Now, do you want it in a dark place though? You know, because some seeds need to think that they're underneath the ground in order to germinate. Would that help?
Right. So there's two thoughts when it comes to kind of that benefit when seeds germinate. So there's a real actual thing talking about the pressure that a seed feels when it is in the ground.
Okay.
Because there's pressure from the earth, the dirt, kind of pressing in on that seed that causes it to germinate. And so that's what we do when we have the paper towel. And I will usually take kind of like, you know, a regular like size paper towel. This is just a sheet of paper. But I will fold it in half like this. So I will fold it in half. So I took the length of the paper towel. And then I will actually fold it in half again. So I'm making a little...
So it's a hamburger fold, then a hot dog fold. It's true.
I don't know what that means, but anyways. So then I have this like, it's doubled over on the top and it's doubled over on the underneath side. And so then when you get this wet, you have the seeds that are all right in here. And that helps, that's enough pressure to help them germinate. Now they're not in the dark. I mean, not completely in the dark, although they're a little bit in the dark. But it really is just like a maybe 2, 3, 4 day process. And you will actually have your seeds. I should show you guys next week. I could germinate some seeds for you guys. You will actually have the little dry seeds, the peas in there. And then they will actually they will get a little sprout and it will actually start to green up the longer you let them germinate. And you will be able to tell the green end, which is going to go up, and then the root end, which is going to go down. So the stalk end basically, and then the root end. So we germinate our peas. We germinate a lot of the seeds that we start. Beans, all of that kind of stuff. So anyways, as usual, if you guys have questions.
Yep. Questions, comments. If you like the gardening tips and you want more, drop those in comments. Reach out to Becky on Facebook, comments in either one, and subscribe if you're on YouTube. So anyhow.
Yeah. Awesome. We'll chat with you guys next week. Bye.